Alright, so let's unpack this whole topic. It's got a lot going on, right? We're talking about the potential boost in UK defence spending and how it might be used as a strategic move by Keir Starmer, especially in light of a hypothetical Trump return to the White House. Now, why is that significant? Well, if you're aware, Trump has been very vocal in the past about European nations, and even NATO allies, not stepping up enough when it comes to their defence commitments. He's said this before, about how they rely too much on the US military, so this really shapes things for the UK. Now, according to some defence experts in the UK, there's already a Strategic Defence Review, or SDR, underway, which is basically a comprehensive evaluation of the country's defence needs. This review is looking at things like spending, resources, and the future capabilities the military needs to defend the country. Okay, so here's where Starmer and his team come into play. They're being nudged like Admiral Lord West, a former Navy chief, is really encouraging Starmer to think seriously about an emergency cash injection into the defence budget. Aha! So this isn't just a simple budget adjustment, it's a call for a significant push to show that the UK is prepared to match the US and play a bigger role on the global stage. Now, here's an interesting point, right? Admiral Lord West, who served as the Chief of Naval Staff and was once a security minister under Gordon Brown, suggests that this is actually an opportunity for the UK. He's saying that, given the politics of the moment, the UK can step up and showcase its commitment to defence spending. Historically, the UK has done pretty well in comparison to some other European nations in terms of defence, so West is saying, why not set an example here? His idea is for the UK to push defence spending towards 3% of GDP, which would definitely be a big move, right? Now, West argues that this would be a clear signal to Trump that the UK is serious about defence, and he believes that this shift would yield multiple benefits for the UK, It could potentially put the UK in Trump's good graces, something that, as West sees it, could lead to some advantageous outcomes. He's suggesting that if the UK takes the lead in defence spending, it could influence other European nations to follow suit. It's a bold proposal, but it does raise questions about where the funding would actually come from. Okay, so let's talk a bit about the budget constraints here. Starmer, along with Chancellor Rachel Reeves, already faces financial challenges when it comes to defence. The government has promised a defence spending target of 2.5% of GDP, but this goal is still largely unfunded. In fact, the National Audit Office has identified a PS17 billion shortfall in the defence budget over the next decade, specifically for new weapons and equipment. That's a huge gap, and it definitely complicates things, right? So it's like they've made this promise, but the financial resources aren't fully there to support it. Starmer's team would need to make some tough budgetary decisions if they're serious about a defence boost. Another perspective comes from Professor Malcolm Chalmers, who's with the Royal United Services Institute. He's saying that given a likely increase in NHS spending after 2025-26, there's not much room left for other departments, including defence, to see any significant budget growth. However, Chalmers does think there's a case for immediate defence funding, especially if Trump does return to office. He believes that, with the global political shifts, maybe defence could become an exception and receive more funding in the near term. Without it, Chalmers warns, there could be a squeeze on the UK's defence capabilities, which might weaken their military readiness over time. Now, when we're talking about where these funds could come from, Lord West himself is aware that it's no easy feat. He admits that after a recent budget that already raised taxes and boosted spending, there's not a lot of spare public money to go around. But he argues that defence should be a government's top priority, If that means making cuts elsewhere, he says it may be necessary even if it's a horrible reality. This stance is, of course, controversial. Defence spending at the expense of other critical areas isn't exactly a popular idea, but Lord West insists it's necessary if the government is to truly prioritise national security. One of the other dynamics in play here is Trump's position on NATO and support for Ukraine. With the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and the pressure on European nations to support NATO, this is a crucial issue. Trump has been, pretty vocal in the past about wanting NATO allies to pull their weight. So the UK potentially increasing its defence budget could also be seen as a strategic move to keep Trump engaged and supportive of NATO and the situation in Ukraine. It's like Starmer is being encouraged to shore up the UK's position by showing they're willing to contribute more proactively. Adding to the complexity, Fiona Hill, a former White House Russia advisor, is involved in the UK's Strategic Defence Review. She has a nuanced perspective on Trump, having worked with him, and her insights on Russia are valuable given the current geopolitical tensions. Her role in the SDR suggests that the review is being taken seriously and is expected to be rigorous. Her presence indicates that the UK is paying close attention to the broader strategic implications of the review, especially concerning its relationship with the US and its stance on Russia. So, the government's position on this issue is pretty clear. They've said they'll do what it takes to protect the country. They've already increased defence spending by $2.9 billion for next year, but some think that's just not enough. They're pushing to reach that 2.5% GDP goal, but getting there means making some tough decisions. A government spokesperson even stated that they're committed to this path because of the increasing threats and the evolving nature of warfare. They're considering all the modern challenges, which range from cybersecurity to advanced weaponry, and they want to ensure the military is prepared. To sum it up, there's a lot of debate here about where to find the funds for a defense boost and whether it's the right approach. Yeah, there are some real budgetary constraints, and not everyone's on board with cutting other services to fund defense. But for some, like Admiral Lord West, it's about taking a stand on the global stage, especially with Trump potentially returning. They see this as an opportunity for the UK to lead by example, which they argue could enhance their national security and strengthen their alliance with the US.